last year 28 NBA franchises made the absolute biggest mistake of their lives. They had the chance to draft Adou, but instead 28 teams passed and let the Lakers grab him. It is insane. He is an absolute beast at the rim. In fact, Los Angeles saw so much raw potential in him that they traded up not just once, but twice to secure him with the 36th pick, joining a squad that just spent $500 million building around Luka Doncic. That pick changed hands multiple times, starting with the Nets, moving to the Timberwolves, and finally landing with the Lakers. And Los Angeles used that exact selection to draft Adou out of Arkansas. Now, those same 28 front offices are deeply regretting their decisions after watching this 6'7" wing with a 7-foot wingspan go undefeated through 5 straight Summer League games for the NBA's most-watched franchise, all while averaging 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals, and nearly 3 assists a night, while the guys selected ahead of him are still struggling to find their footing. So, how does a second-round pick that absolutely nobody cared about become a crucial piece on the most expensive roster in the league? To truly understand why this Summer League run means so much more than basic box score numbers, you have to look at the hardships his family had to overcome. And here is the part that none of those 28 teams bothered to look into deeply enough. His father, Almami, arrived in America in 1999, chasing the basketball dream. He was a massive 6'9" forward and legitimately one of the elite high school prospects in the nation, which earned him a spot playing under John Calipari at Memphis. Back then, his path to the league seemed inevitable, but then physical disaster struck repeatedly. First, he suffered a torn ACL. Then he battled dangerous blood clots, and finally, he ended up with a fractured tibia. 3 separate times his body betrayed him, stripping away his dreams before he could show what he was truly capable of. He tried to salvage his basketball career by transferring to Duquesne, desperately trying to hold it all together. But his body just wouldn't cooperate, and the dream died quietly. Then, his mother Miriam arrived a year later. She was a dominant 6'4" star at Oklahoma City University and actually made the pros, getting selected 33rd overall by the Washington Mystics in the 2006 WNBA draft. But that brutal family curse struck again, as severe knee injuries completely derailed her professional career before she could ever reach her prime, meaning Adou had 2 parents with massive basketball dreams, both shattered before they could turn them into reality. But the most painful part of their entire journey was having to leave their 2-month-old son behind with his grandmother and Molly while they tried to build a life in America. They grinded for a full year before they could finally afford to bring him over in 2007, eventually settling down in Pennsylvania to raise their son to finish the exact basketball journey they never could. So, when draft night arrived and the whole family put on matching Lakers hats, that moment wasn't just about Adou. That was 2 resilient parents watching their unfinished story finally get its second chapter. But actually getting drafted was never guaranteed, not even close. See, before any of this, Adou spent 2 developmental years at Kentucky under John Calipari. Yeah, the very same coach who recruited his father at Memphis decades ago, and honestly, those 2 years were pretty frustrating to watch. He averaged only 5 points in limited action across 45 games, occasionally showing flashes of that explosive athleticism that got scouts excited, but he never quite put everything together consistently enough to force the coaching staff to hand him major minutes. The physical tools were clearly there, but the on-court production just wasn't matching up yet. So, when Coach Calipari made the shocking decision to leave Kentucky for Arkansas, Adou made a move that showed exactly where his head was at. He packed up and followed him. He trusted the one coach who truly believed in him, transferring to a new program and betting everything on their bond. The critics called it a move of desperation, and honestly, it kind of looked like that from the outside. But what happened next made every single skeptic look completely foolish, because once he got to Arkansas, everything clicked immediately. He led the entire team in scoring at 15.1 points per game, shooting 54.5%, and grabbing 1.6 steals a night. Those raw tools that NBA scouts spent 2 years doubting suddenly started looking like actual weapons when they were unleashed, and Calipari couldn't stop hyping him to the media. The doubts just weeded themselves out. I would tell any front office, just like I did with Maxey, and quickly if you pass on him, You're insane. Physically, he can step on an NBA court and help you right away. Then, out of absolutely nowhere, a severe knee injury struck and forced him to miss 10 straight games. That setback was genuinely terrifying for about 100 different reasons. Mostly because it was the exact same joint that ended his dad's Memphis career and derailed his mom's WNBA future before she even peaked. Of all the brutal things that could go wrong, honestly, right then, it felt like that dark family curse was gearing up to repeat itself all over again. But he fought back, finished the season, and by the time draft night finally rolled around, the Lakers had already locked him in as their guy. They actually traded up twice just to grab him at pick 36, while every other franchise passed because they were too scared of his medical red flags and outside shooting numbers. Instantly, the debate started over whether the Lakers had made a mistake. But his rookie year got off to a start that made the whole debate feel incredibly awkward, since Adou averaged only 6 minutes a game. 6 minutes across 25 appearances under the brightest spotlight in the entire league. If you were one of those 28 teams that passed on him, that stat probably felt like validation that you made the right call. To be fair, he missed his entire debut summer league with a left knee injury, the same exact knee, just a different year. Which meant the very first time fans saw him in purple and gold was during garbage time of meaningless regular season games. Then, just 3 playoff minutes against Oklahoma City before their postseason run ended, that was it. That was his entire rookie year. And honestly, those rival front offices weren't totally wrong. 6 minutes a night on a $500 million roster doesn't exactly scream future rotation piece. The outside shooting concerns were still glaring. His medical history remained a huge concern, and whether his game could translate beyond raw athleticism was still heavily questioned. But here's the massive detail those 28 teams missed while they were busy feeling validated. The Lakers weren't limiting him to 6 minutes because they'd lost faith in his potential. They played him 6 minutes because they had superstars like LeBron and Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves ahead of him on a legitimate championship caliber roster. Look, there's a massive difference between a guy who can't earn playing time and a guy who just hasn't got his opportunity yet. So, what actually happens when you finally give a talent like that his first real opportunity on basketball's biggest stage? Well, the Lakers just tore through this year's Summer League, going undefeated in 5 straight games. And Adou was the driving force. In Game 1 against Oklahoma City, he dropped a massive 20 points. He threw down 4 separate dunks, including that ridiculous second quarter windmill slam, and tacked on 4 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. He finished the night as a plus 13 with absolutely 0 turnovers in 30 minutes of action. Let that sink in for a second, because the same kid who 28 front offices decided wasn't worth a first-round pick just posted a plus 13 with 0 turnovers against one of the league's most talented young rosters. And here's the part that should seriously embarrass every single front office that passed. That opening masterpiece wasn't a fluke either, because he came right back the next night and did the exact same thing. And then he did it the game after that and the very next game too. He strung together 4 consecutive double-digit scoring performances, averaging 14.1 points, 5.4 rebounds, 2.7 assists, and 2.1 steals, while shooting 48.5% from the field across 7 appearances. Those numbers are way higher than what you'd expect from a second-round draft pick, and they look exactly like a key rotation player's numbers on a serious championship contender. The Clippers matchup was easily the defining moment of his entire summer, especially when a potential runaway dunk got flagged as a ridiculous flagrant foul, which instantly sparked a whole lot of pushing, shoving, and technical fouls flying everywhere. But you know what? He shrugged it off, helping the Lakers win anyway, which was their 5th straight victory, by the way. Then came the grand finale, where he went absolutely ballistic on the court. He dropped 18 points on a perfect 6 for 6 from the floor, including 1 for 1 from 3 and a flawless 3 for 3 from the free throw line. Along with that perfect shooting night, he pulled down 10 rebounds, dropped 3 assists, and grabbed 3 steals to lock in a massive double-double, capping off their undefeated run. That is why they checked him back in. Adou is up to 20 now. His own words after the season showed exactly who he is. He said he was just trying to go out there and cause absolute havoc. He mentioned that JJ, he tells them exactly what he wants, like how they need a disruptive point of attack ball defender and everything. So he is just trying to go out there, earn those defensive reps, and be exactly the stopper they need. And that is someone who understands that Summer League was just a warm-up and the real show is on the way. Now think about what those 28 other teams are watching right now. The rookie they passed on just helped the Lakers go undefeated for 5 straight games, finishing with a perfect shooting night in the finale. They all passed on him because of shooting concerns and his injury history. But he spent the entire Summer League answering every single doubt on the biggest stage possible, wearing that purple and gold. The only real question left, and it is the one that actually matters going into October, is whether any of this translates once the real season tips off, because we have to be completely real about what Adou actually is right now and what he still is not. His single biggest hurdle is still that three-point jump shot, since he shot 26.5% from deep across his 3 college years. And yeah, you can bring up that perfect 1-for-1 night in the finale, but a single shot is not a real sample size. That is just one moment. In a system built entirely around Luka D'Antonic driving the paint and kicking to perimeter shooters, a wing who cannot consistently threaten from deep allows opposing defenses to ignore him completely. And the second defenses can ignore him, they can collapse on Luka, take away Kessler's easy lob opportunities, and make the entire offense completely predictable. That concern is very real, and some flashy Summer League numbers are not going to make it go away. Then there is the question of whether his game works in a half-court system. Everything Adou does best, from transition, finishing, to cutting, and the defensive chaos he unleashes, happens in open space at high speeds. But the NBA playoffs run through half-court execution and grinding defensive possessions, where raw athleticism matters less than decision-making. And playing just 6 minutes a game last season did not give anyone enough data on how he handles those situations. Plus, the injury history is still looming. He dealt with knee problems back in college and missed his entire rookie summer league. His father's career ended on that very same body part. That family history alone should make everyone a little cautious about projecting a long, perfectly healthy career. But all of that might be secondary because, as I mentioned earlier, the kid just shot 48.5% from the field, averaged over 2 steals a night, led his team to 5 straight wins, and capped it with a perfect shooting night. Keep in mind, this is all happening on the most heavily scrutinized roster in basketball. He is only 22 years old and getting better with every single game. His parents came from Mali with nothing but basketball dreams, only to watch injuries steal everything away. Now their son is out there going completely undefeated in Las Vegas, proudly wearing that iconic Lakers jersey. So, let me know your thoughts. Was Adou the most overlooked player of the 2025 draft class, or did those 28 other teams see something the Lakers missed?